My name is Paul. I work for the international sales company Wide, and I'm going to use this few minutes to explain you why a classical sales company from the film industry decided to jump into VR. So, for those who don't really know about Wide, I'm going to make it simple. Wide is an international sales company founded 12 years ago by my boss Loïc Magneron, with the idea to sell and represent new talents from Europe mainly. So catalog or lineup nowadays, it's about 500 titles, feature films, documentaries, and we really want to support new talents, as I said. And as my boss say, we like to work sometimes with movies that are not expected by the mainstream market, and we experiment a lot with a new canal of distribution. We have been the first time to experiment a day and date release, by instance, in France, when you release in theater and on VOD platform in the same times, and also with VOD. So we can say that experimentation is part of the DNA of the company. So this was the introduction for Wide. Myself, I work for Wide for 3 years, and I'm in charge of acquisition. And while I was traveling into markets and film festival, I started to meet with producers that in between their feature film projects had also some strange immersive production. So that was the case with these guys, Peter and Patrick. They are Swedish producer, and they had this strange project called Oh Deer, where you had like a plastic head of a deer with inside a Samsung Gear, and when you go in, you experience the 5 last minutes in the life of a deer surrounded by hunters. So we start talking all together, and we were wondering what are the possibility to reach foreign markets with this content. At the same moment, I met the producer Avi Amar, who is a French producer, and he was in post-production of the first 360 experience from a young director called Alexandre Perez. So the interesting thing with this VR production is they had produced this content exactly like you produce a short movie in France, using the funds from the National Film Institute, from the regions, and also some pre-sales to some broadcasters. And when I started to talk with them, I quickly understood that Javi was looking for someone to take care of the festival strategy and distribution. So it's how, after few meetings with my boss and with the team, we decided maybe to create Wide VR. And why did we create Wide VR? It's because first we were convinced that it was a new media, virtual reality, to tell stories. And what we do at Wide is selling films, traditional films, of course, but before films, what we like, it's the vision of the directors, the story, and we saw in VR a new potential, a new creative area for telling stories. Then it's also an opportunity and a new field to experiment, a new synergy with partners we already have, like festivals, like film institutes, with producers, because lots of these players in the VR markets are already also playing in the classical film industry, so we keep working with them. And also launching this VR department was a great distribution challenge, because there is VR content, but we don't really know yet what is the distribution model the most efficient, so it was like a new adventure for the company. So how do we sell VR? We started selling VR with our 12 years old experience in terms of selling films, and we started a little bit the same way, because as you can imagine, in terms of marketing, in terms of network, so it can work a little bit the same. So when I launched Wide VR, I could use already the networks that we had in place with Wide. By instance, here at the film market, we are used to have a booth at the MGB area where the buyer, the festival, they come to see my colleagues to watch the last title from our film lineup. So I created like a space where I can also show some VR experience there. We started like that, and of course there is also to develop to go to the new marketplaces, to the new festivals dedicated to VR. VR sales, so it's for a company like us, it's also lots of experimentation, and it's require lots of flexibility, because as Victor said before, we work a lot with a new initiative, little plays all around the world, so it takes lots of time to discuss the deal, to adapt the contracts and the kind of deals you do with this new player. So it requires lots of experimentation. So how do we sell precisely VR contents? We are focused on narrative contents, and we are looking for contents that have a high artistic value. And when you have VR contents like that, of course, it's not video games. So the mass audience, they don't really know about these contents. And what we can do the best to start selling, it's having a good festival premiere. So the people before me talked a little bit about festival, but in the case of Sergeant James, by instance, the film started with the North American premiere in Tribeca. And it was the real start for the film because it gives a great visibility, and Sergeant James has been quickly recognized as a good VR experience. And after Tribeca, we directly start doing other festivals, and after 1 year, we did more than 50 festivals selection with Sergeant James. And here, it's the first step for monetization, maybe, even if it's small monetization, but with lots of this festival, we managed to negotiate some screening fees. So for give you a precise idea, screening fees in festival is between 100 and 500 euros. So it's small amounts, but if you do like 50 festivals with 100 euros, it can already help to recoup your marketing expenses, and it's a beginning of a little business model. In the field of festival, there is really good news for VR. In 2017, the best one was maybe the VR section in Venice. So in this area in Venice, there was an island dedicated to VR. So the curation was by Lise Rosenthal and Michel Reyac. You have a part of in the island where you can have access to interactive experiences, and also a VR theater like this one, run by the company Diversion. So for a content like Sergeant James, that is a 360 immersive experience, you can screen it in this kind of VR theater. You have like 40 seats, people go in the room together, and you just have to press play on one computer, and it starts in the same time for all the people here. This is something that is work very well with 360, and this kind of technique has been adopted by many location-based or festival around the world. So it's also a good way to monetize because you can make people pay tickets, and like that people realize also that VR, they can share it with their friends and family. So as I said, this concept here in Venice, you can see, by instance, here it's in a cinema in Paris at the Luxor, so they do it Saturday of the weekend. You also have a place like that, by instance, Samhood Media, it's a company in Netherlands. They open partnerships with many theaters around Europe, and here it's in Amsterdam. They say it's the first VR theater in Europe because they started, I think, 1 year and a half, 2 years ago. So they are really good partner with us, and it's also like a system that can be a solution for monetization because yes, we share the price on the tickets that are sales in these places. So here it works only with 360. Of course, if tomorrow I start to represent some interactive experiences, I will need a different system. So our friends from MK2 with the MK2 VR, they have a really good solution. Here you can experiment at the MK2 VR any kind of devices. You have HTC Vive, you have Oculus, you have everything, but you don't pay for the content. You pay, in fact, to the time you're going to spend in this place. And but it works very well because the public that can experiment VR for the first time, they can see interactive video games and also doing more like 360 experience. So it's really good. And what I'm exploring right now, it's also the relation we can develop with the arcade places, because in Paris, by instance, into this year, in 2017, they opened like 4 or 5 arcade places in the center of Paris. So it's mainly dedicated to multiplayer games where you shoot zombies or you do stuff like that. But talking with some owners of these places, they really want also maybe to develop a little area dedicated to more narrative content and experiences, because there is many, by instance, parents coming with their kids and they would like to experience VR, but maybe with content that are less interactive and that brings more, I don't know, intellectual content. So it can be a good opportunity of development of the market of the location-based. Here it's not the picture of an arcade place. In fact, it's a screen capture from the next Spielberg movie, Ready Player One. And I just want to say that I'm really excited about this movie, and maybe it's going to bring to the mass audience an idea of what we can do with VR, as well on the dystopic ways as on the entertaining and funny way. So it's going to be great, I think. So what is White VR today? So as I say, it's a lineup of VR narrative content. And with distribution networks is mainly festival, LBE, VR theaters, and then the online distribution. We had good deals with some platforms. As Antoine explained before, they pay for a period of exclusivity, for a window of exclusivity, and it's really interesting. I think that online distribution can be maybe the way to reach a mass audience. But in the case of the lineup I represent, as I say, most of these experiences, they are independent production without any cast. They are not at all interactive, or it's not video games. So if I put these contents directly on a platform, nobody will download it. So that's why I really need to have some festival and location based to get these experiences recognized by the people, and to make some marketing and like that. So when this experience arrive on platforms, first the buyer from the platform, they are ready to put sometimes license fee or minimum guarantee, and they can use already the marketing and the visibility of the contents acquired during the festivals and in location based. So this is our lineup. So just quickly to say that there is Sergeant James, I explained. Your Spiritual Temple Sex, it's a Taiwanese production that was in Sundance. So most of these experiences, they have been in film festival. I want to say that, by instance, Not to My Father, that is really nice documentary co-production in between UK and India. It's working very, very well in terms of festivals. And there is the audience really like, in fact, documentary in 360, and I think there is a good potential for this kind of contents and a big demand right now. And the interesting point is that the documentary in 360, if you have a good subject, if you have people that really know how to shoot in 360 and doing like a great editing, it's not so expensive to do, and it can be produced quickly. So I really look for more content like that, and I think also it brings like a real intellectual and interesting value to virtual reality. So out of what I'm representing in 2017, I've been really amazed by two experiences that also show maybe a future potential of exploitation and business model for VR. The first one is The Enemy, that is in fact in the crossroad of the virtual exhibition and the documentary. In fact, it's a room scale installation where 25 people in the same time can be inside and visiting an exhibition of pictures, and in the same time they can meet virtual persons that are fighters from contemporary war and crisis in the world, and it's really intense and really beautiful experience. And there was also Carne in Arena, that was the experience by Alejandro Inarritu, that was in official selection in Cannes. And it's really interesting because it was built as an art installation, and I believe that concept like that can travel across the world in museum or gallery, and there will be a distribution model for that, and it will be maybe only location based, but I think the audience will be ready to leave their home for going to this place and paying tickets, because it delivers like an experience that you can't experiment at your home, because it's require like specific installation and everything. So it's really interesting, even if at the moment it costs a lot to develop such installation. I think in a close future it will be maybe a distribution model. There will be maybe a distribution model for that. So, voilà. So, and now in 2018, what do we need on the VR market? I think when we need mostly, it's good stories. I think it's a place now for storytellers to take VR and to tell what they want to express in virtual reality in order to sustain all this distribution network we try to develop. So I don't think there is like a perfect world, but we can develop like a really good VR model with all these points. And so yes, let's do great stories together and let's produce and distribute VR. So thank you very much.